What's up, everybody? Hey, Tom Laird here, host of the Advice from a Call Center Geek podcast and founder of Expivia. For exceptional contact center outsourcing, trust Expivia. We're fully AI-driven, as all of you know, and can handle voice, email, chat, and all of your digital channels. Our 600-seat USA contact center is expert in healthcare, financial services, insurance, tech support, retail, and more. Experts on the NICE CX1 platform, we ensure seamless customer experiences. DM me or visit expiviausa.com for more.
This is Advice from a Call Center Geek, a weekly podcast with a focus on all things call center. We'll cover it all from call center operations, hiring, culture, technology, and education. We're here to give you actionable items to improve the quality of yours and your customers' experience. This is an evolving industry with creative minds and ambitious people like this guy. Not only is his passion call center operations, but he's our host. He's the CEO of Expivia Interaction Marketing Group and the Call Center Geek himself, Tom Laird.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Advice from a Call Center Geek, the Call Center Contact Center podcast. We try to give you some actionable items, take back in your contact center, improve the overall quality, improve the agent experience, hopefully improve your customer experience as well. My name is Tom Laird. I'm the CEO here at Expivia Interaction Marketing. We're a 600-seat call center outsourcer located here in northwestern Pennsylvania. How's everybody doing? Recording this on a Monday. I'm live here on LinkedIn, live on TikTok as well. If you guys have any questions whatsoever as I kind of go through the topics that I have here, let me know. We kind of always treat this as kind of an AMA anyway, so if we go off topic, I'm totally fine with that. If there's any questions that you have, please let me know. But I wanted to focus on kind of the theme of improving agent quality, improving the coaching aspect of what we do as call center managers, call center supervisors. I guess I've been on a little bit of a kick on tone, looking at speech analytics and kind of talking some of that through in the latest couple episodes. I guess one thing kind of leads to another a little bit here. So I wanted to talk about give you 9 or 10 kind of tips on how to improve the coaching experience, kind of the coaching culture, and hopefully can improve your agents to be just better overall when they're trying to be that kind of voice of your brand. So again, any questions as we're going, please let me know. So the first thing, you've heard me talk about this if you follow me at all, and it is understand, when to coach privately and understand when to kind of announce things to the floor. Now, I know a lot of us are now all work from home. We're using Slack, we're using Teams, we're using those type of IM tools. But please understand, these are all employees. These are all people. Nobody wants to be embarrassed. A lot of younger supervisors kind of have a little bit of a fear that they're being undermined. So they may kind of reach out a little bit aggressively. But we want to make sure that anytime that we're coaching our agent, if we're training them, if we're talking about something that they did wrong, we want to do that privately, right? Anytime that they do something awesome, we have 100% on a QA score. We call it a raving fan, right? Like when a customer wants to talk to the supervisor to say how awesome they did with that. That stuff needs to be blasted out to the whole company, to your call center, to the team. That's one thing. You don't want to blast out, if Janie's, QA score was low, if she forgot to read a disclosure, if she's not listening for specific closing symbols that you guys have worked on. Right now, you can kind of use that as an overall arching kind of theme for the team, but don't single out one person on an IM. Don't single out if you are still in the contact center, call them out, on the contact center floor. Don't even kind of bring them to your station or your work area where everyone else can see. I think that stuff needs to be done a little bit privately. I think if you're doing coaching properly, you're going to probably be listening to calls and doing some of those things too. So it doesn't really help anybody to just kind of put somebody on blast. All right, so let's talk about specifically if we are coaching somebody. The first thing that we want to do is call center agents are super, super smart, right? And they kind of know, the ins and outs of so many of these. I don't want to say how to get out of things, but they understand when you as a supervisor might not be as strong, or they understand, if there's any wiggle room for them getting out of something that maybe that they did, they're going to try to do it. So you have to be extremely specific, when you want to go coach an agent. So you can't just say, hey, I was listening and, we talked about, we're really trying to push cross-sell and upsell, right? And, there's some certain things that you really didn't say that we got to make sure that we're listening for those closing signals, right? That's extremely general, and it can take your agent and you down a rabbit hole. So I'd rather you be way more specific and say, hey, Bill, listen, when that customer asked about, the product that we had, right? Instead of just explaining it and then moving on, that was a closing signal for you to, explain it and then go right into the sale and assume that sale. Those specific things are what will make your agents, I think, respect the conversation a little bit more, and they will also kind of respect what you have to say. And also, I think you're helping them more, right? If you're being very general, they're going to be like, well, all right. But if you're being specific on what they needed to do, I think that, you can really enhance, how that coaching experience is going. We talk about, and I just did a huge video and almost a full podcast on talking about the tone is the message, right? I think that this is a really, really important thing for all call center agents and all trainers and all supervisors, right? We do such a good job of when we're training our agents on what to click, where to go on the screen, where to find information. Right? We do all that. And I think many call centers, as I go out to consult, do a very poor job of actually speaking through tone, how to speak to somebody. Remember, we're all on our cell phones all the time now. Right? I was holding up my imaginary cell phone. We just text, and we don't have these interactions where voice and our inflection and how we say things is almost as important or more important than kind of what we say. Right? The best contact center agents out there can follow every policy, can tell a customer no 32 times, and that customer still felt like they had a really good experience, right? While a poor customer service agent can just go through the motions, do what they need to do, and maybe that customer, got that refund, but they still felt like that experience wasn't good because, again, the tone was not there for the contact center agent. So making sure, again, that when we do our training, especially initial training on a new program or a new project, or you have a new customer service agent coming into your agent, every single piece of what you're doing from a screen training standpoint should be role played with how they're going to be using it, with a huge emphasis on their tone of voice, having a smile on their face. I just had, somebody on TikTok sent me a comment that says they have a mirror, like a small mirror on the call center agent on their desk. Every time they look, they can see if they're smiling or not, right? And they kind of stress that, the smile does kind of come through. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, especially if you're a seasoned call center, supervisor on this. But I think that that was a really cool thing that kind of really sparked, something. We got away from this, right? Like I was talking about on our call center floor, we had this big circle and it says smile, right, with a mirror, right when you walked into one of our centers. And again, I think it just, that last thought is a positive thought. I think that's important. But with this work from home deal, we have to think of some other ways to make sure that we're getting that through our agents. And I think a lot of that really starts with, that initial training. So again, when you're talking, don't take anything for granted. Even the, when you're trying to get information from the customer to verify their account, all that stuff's really important to start the call, with proper tone. And I think we've lost some of that as we've gotten more complex with our projects and our programs, and there's more integrations and there's more screen work, and we have agents going from this screen to this screen to this screen to find information, right? Making sure that still the number one thing that we're really speaking to and talking to is tone. Another thing that I think can really, really help is tie goals to your coaching. If you have specific QA scores that you're looking for in your contact center, if there are certain sales aspects from a cross-sell or upsell, if you are in a retention call center where, maybe customers are calling to cancel and, it's your job to try to retain those customers, having the feedback really tied to goals is really important. So we know if we want to get, Susie or Janie or Jim to a certain percentage on their retention, to a certain percentage on their cross-sell, if we want to improve their QA scores, talk to them about that and be specific. Be like, hey, listen, on this call, right, if you would have read this part of the disclosure, right, and made sure that, in the beginning, we forgot to verify this one piece of information. If you would have done both those things, right, you are at a 99%, right, and you're on your way to bonus. I think that's another really good way from an incentive standpoint, kind of a psychic income aspect to really help with some of those things that, a rep might be like, dude, all right, I get it. Like, what is this doing for me? Right. And I think that's important too, right? We all want the customer experience to be great, but we have to understand these are agents. We want to help them succeed. We want to help them get more money. We want to help them, have higher QA scores. We want to help them become supervisors if they want to move on or move up. Tying a lot of this stuff to the goals of how you can help them is a way for things to click in their head to see like, oh my gosh, yes, this is kind of how we can really advance this and go. The number one tip that I have, right, and I kind of sandwich this right in the middle, is role play to no extent, right? I think role playing, it's one thing to when we initially are coaching and we're telling the agent and we're being specific with what they did, right, and how we want them to change. That's great. But the second piece of this is to really be able to role play and kind of practice what we actually want. And I think you should do it both ways. Have the supervisor or you as the call center manager be the agent, have that person be the customer and kind of replay that call, and then flip it around as well. And then you be the customer and let them be the call center agent. Role playing is like, it's one thing to go to a coach's clinic and have a coach up there draw on the board, right? Hey, do this, set the screen here, come off this flare screen and do that. It's a whole other thing when there's players on the court that you're actually seeing and you're kind of interacting with. And I think that's a huge piece of this aspect of coaching is having them kind of sit back and see something from a different perspective, see things when, how the customer would have felt if that was said to them. And I think that can help as well from that standpoint. All right, I'm going to hit a couple comments here, right? On TikTok, right? The lower the agent pay is, the lower the supervisor pay has to be. I mean, I guess I don't really know how those correlate. I mean, I would hope that there's a comfort level on the salary that people are getting. Like, I understand that in general, contact centers are thought of as, very difficult places to work, low pay. And I would say that whole kind of mindset is changing a ton. I would say it's, even before COVID, it was different, but now even post-COVID, I mean, our salaries, which I always thought, again, we're good and we can have that argument, and everybody always argues, especially on TikTok, about salaries. But, we've gone up probably about 30 to 35% since COVID with both our supervisor pay and our agent pay. We've also raised our prices. We're BPO. I'll tell you, we're in the mid 30s now with cost from a BPO standpoint, right? So I was pre-COVID, $26, $27 an hour. And now, we're starting pretty much everything in the low to mid 30s because of, and none of that is coming onto our margin. All that is getting passed to our agents. So I think we have seen an improvement in that overall as an industry. And especially, when you're working for a high-end BPO like us, if you're working for, a hospital or an insurance company, a lot of those are $20 plus hour jobs now. And we were just kind of making a joke. It's almost easier right now to find, engineers from all the layoffs that have happened than it is to find really good customer service people. Again, I think the mentality of that should be changing. It is definitely not a minimum wage type job. And if you are in that spot, then hey, go on our website, expiviausa.com and apply, because, we're always looking for really good contact center agents that have really good tone, have a really good attitude, and can give effort. So, all right, let me get back to this. All right. The second, or the next thing I want to talk about is kind of, understanding expectations. I think that this is another thing, and I'm throwing a lot of things in here, right? So there's a lot of HR stuff, there's QA stuff, there's supervisor stuff, there's management things. But I think one of the things that is really important is to have expectations and consequences. And I hate using the stick, right? I think I'm way more, and I think the most successful contact centers and businesses overall, are using carrots and using kindness, and we're trying to, help agents as much as we possibly can. But it does come to a certain point, right, where maybe we do have to get, our HR involved, or if there's just, something, again, for us, it's two pillars of of our culture of attitude and effort. So if we're kind of just constantly fighting with one agent on one or two of those things, then we want to, make sure that when we do bring the HR to a pack, make sure that in your contact center, you have every single thing scoped out, what the expectation is. And if that expectation is not met, if there is a consequence, what that consequence is. The worst thing, again, from a consulting standpoint that I see is when we don't have these kind of HR, what happens if you call off 2 days in a row or 3 days in a row? What happens if you're late all the time? What happens if you're giving attitude to a team member? What if you say something inappropriate on Slack? What if somebody just refuses to do stuff? All these different things that can come up in any job place, right? The worst thing that you can do is not have these things scoped out and have your HR personnel or you as a call center manager or supervisor become subjective with what that outcome is going to be. Right? Nothing can cause more issues in your contact center than people thinking you're playing favorites or that you don't like me, right? And you're being harder on me than it is on these agents over here. Or the worst, right? That supervisor lets it happen all the time. Why can't you let that happen all the time? I want to go to that team. With dealing with so many people in a contact center, right? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people for some call centers, thousands for others. And even if you have a smaller call center, it could be even 20 to 30 people. That's still a lot of personalities and a lot of different things that can happen, right? So making sure that everybody knows it's in the handbook, it is trained, it is explained. There is no subjectivity. It is black and white to say, hey, when we get to this point, when we've tried to coach, we've tried to do these things, it's not there, and we have to take it to an HR standpoint. I think then making sure that you have that all scoped out is really, really important to kind of meet the culture of your organization. The other thing that again, these are all kind of random thoughts that I have on this coaching aspect is a lot of the times, let's say we do coach, so we have an issue, or not an issue, but we had a rep that just missed something, right? Not a big deal. We pull the agent, we do a one-on-one with them, we role play it. They think they got it. They're very positive about it. Everything's cool. They go back to the call center, start taking calls again. The main thing you need to do, though, and a lot of times we forget, is to remonitor that agent, right? So we have a rule within 30 minutes, that agent gets remonitored, rescored, with the focus being on what we just talked about. And if we have that same issue again, then we're going to go over it, because there's a basketball coach that talks about in it. Gino Ariema talked about, two things, right? If a player does something wrong, either one, they don't know what to do, or number two, they're intentionally doing it on purpose and they don't care. And the first one you can deal with, the second one, you got to sit them. So for us, we can't really sit our agents, right? But we can make sure that, again, if HR then needs to get involved, or how we deal with that. I don't like to get HR involved unless we are having something that is unworkable through these two individuals. We hopeful through our management training program, the things that we do from our supervisors, that we wouldn't have these issues unless it's something pretty crazy that happens. It's that 1%, 2% that we have to then take to HR. Everything should be able to be handled on the floor, but being able to remonitor, right, and make sure that then everybody feels comfortable. And then when they do it, and if they did it, then you do the shout out, like, hey, Janie, awesome job, man. Like, that was perfect. Right. And just reinforce the positive instead of just accentuating the negative. I think that's really, really important, especially when a lot of times I would rather have the brand new person, the brand new call center agent that has an awesome attitude and awesome effort that I can treat and teach and we can coach, than to have that 30-year-old, been in the call center business for 20 years, comes to work, maybe does her job, but it's just kind of crotchety and kind of, who I'm talking about, like those type of individuals that think they know everything. You can't coach. And for us, that we try not to hire that at all, because it's against culture. But I know a lot of you guys are doing that, or you have, and I have them too, right? They've been with you for 10, 15 years. They think they know everything. You have a new supervisor that comes on board and wants to help them, or sees that you're doing something wrong, and they just kind of totally fluff them off. So again, I think that's a huge piece of it. All right. A couple questions here on LinkedIn. All right, one from Brett, and then Nate, I'll get to you here in a sec. Do you think coaching is best done by a work leader, team leader, or direct supervisor? All right, I get this question a lot. And I think it's a great question. A lot of it comes though from the QA department, right? So QA compared to the supervisor on the floor. So I would say for us, it's the supervisor that is doing the direct coaching. Even if it comes from QA, most of the time it will come from QA, and that will get to the call center floor, and then they'll kind of hash it out, because a lot of times we will see that maybe there's a discrepancy with what QA thought with the supervisor. I know a lot of contact centers use team leads, and we do utilize team leads. Our team leads, though, are pretty much management trainees, right? They are training to become supervisors. So the supervisor might pull the management trainee with them, right, to go do that. But I would consider like a team lead and supervisor almost for us like the same thing, right? They're on the same team on the floor, and then QA is kind of that's that other entity that's listening, the quality assurance guys. So I think when they can come together, they talk it through. The actual coaching, though, I think should be done on the floor from the supervisor, I guess, or the team lead here, depending on how I would look at it. But if that's how you have it set up, I would say the direct supervisor would be the one that I would want to do that, just so that they understand what's going on. And I think that they probably have the most experience as well, to make sure that we're getting through that. But I would love to have the team leads involved. Again, for us, it's the management trainees involved to make sure that we're trying to get the best outcome that we possibly can. So again, thank you for the question. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. And then here, Nate has a question here. I'm needing more computers. Can you share the websites where you get? Yes. Let me think. I'll tell you what. Right now, I've been finding a ton of deals, Nate, on Amazon for repurposed Lenovo's. So again, for anybody who is kind of new here, one of the things that I've always talked about is if you do need new computers for your contact center, I don't think, you don't need to buy brand new $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 computers, unless you have a huge budget. We have found that we're working with like 23-inch Lenovo's, just hardcore all-in-one working machines that is pretty much in our center. So yes, it's refurb.io to Nate. Let me look it up, and I'll shoot you a DM, or maybe I'll do a quick post. But honestly, I've been finding there's one or two of those sites like the refurb.io, and I might not be saying that right, but I'm telling you right now, you can find a ton of stuff on Amazon from an all-in-one Lenovo, like 23-inch models. Question here on TikTok. What do I think of Amazon Connect? So here's the thing with Amazon Connect is I think that they are up and coming in the space. I think that they can do a lot of really cool things. To me, and people push back on me all the time, is I kind of feel like they have not gone all in. If Amazon wants to take anything over, they can take it over. But they've kind of had this slow kind of process where I think there's so many other players that are better. I think that they are relatively inexpensive. Amazon Connect is relatively inexpensive, so that's kind of a bonus for them. But I would still say that they are, fourth, fifth, or sixth on the list of people when I go to consult where they are. So again, I'm a nice CX1, Genesis, 5.9, UJet, and it all just depends really on what you're looking for. What type of, do you want the full meal deal, everything, analytics, full integrations, at all the bells and whistles, workforce management, advanced routing, or do you just need that blocking and tackling, omni-channel, I got to answer calls, and I don't really care about a lot of that stuff. And that's really the differentiator between these platforms. A lot of them as well, they allow integrations of third parties for like analytics. They don't have their own native platform. But then when you get to the higher end platforms, everything is native, right? So it makes things, I think, easier from a connectivity, from an integration standpoint. And I think it becomes a little bit smoother when you're looking for kind of that I want everything on the platform. But again, a lot of contact centers don't need that. I mean, heck, when people come consult with me, they say, hey, listen, we're a startup. We had 4 people taking emails, and we just kind of, we got bigger and we want to, move to voice and chat. And that's really all they care about, right? And maybe they want to integrate with like a Zoho or a Zendesk or something like that. You might not need that full meal deal, huge contact center, and an Amazon Connect or those types of things may be totally fine for that. But hey, if you have any questions, please feel to shoot me a message. More than happy to just even have a quick call with you if you want to know, some things from the consulting side or from the platform side. Do a lot of work with that. We utilize NICE CX1 in my contact center just for full disclosure. I'm on the executive council for their executive customer council, so you really understand a lot about the CX1 platform. And kind of all the bells and whistles of that, as we're utilizing pretty much all of them. But that doesn't mean that there's not other platforms that are better at certain things. So it's all kind of depends on what you need. All right. See if there's any other questions here. Includes titles, message. All right, so let me just kind of maybe just give a quick summary again then on this coaching thing. So when you're thinking of developing as a call center manager, as a call center supervisor, as somebody who's running the show, right? You should be training this and teaching this with your middle management. You should trying to have everything kind of streamlined so everybody's kind of doing the same thing. So again, making sure that we're never embarrassing anybody, making sure that if we're going to coach and we're going to talk something, we're doing that off the floor. If we're rewarding or somebody does something awesome, then we're celebrating that with everyone. I think that's a huge piece of culture, right? Do not hammer somebody in a Slack channel or on a video. You're not doing anything there, right? And if that's your personality, then you got to kind of get that in check. Be extremely specific when you're talking about what you want them to what the actions that you want them to change. Don't be general, or the call center agent will take you down the rabbit hole, right? Well, you'll be almost stuttering over yourself. It's happened to me many, many times. I go in there totally prepared, right? It's really, really important that you do that. Understanding that, tone is the message, right? Tone should be one of the most important things that you're looking through, because it is now a differentiator as well with us and the robots, right? If the robots are all coming for call center jobs, one of the last bastions of us being able to survive this is going to be the tone, right? It's going to be that human engagement. It's going to be that empathy that the human beings can have, right? And it's very difficult as a call center agent, right? When you're taking call after call after call after call, and you become kind of numb to a lot of that. So I think that that's really, really important, from that aspect. Making sure that you're tying goals that you have in your contact center to the actual coaching, right? They want to have they get a bonus for QA scores. They get a bonus for a high retention or a cross-sell or an upsell. Anything that you can kind of tie into helping them get to that will have them listen a little bit more, because it's not just about the customer, which is why we're doing things. But let's be honest, we're human beings, and it's got to be about the agent too if you want behaviors, to change. So how can you help that agent get to where they need to be, right? And have it be a win-win from the customer for that you have, but also from your perspective of the agent. The number one thing that you can do to kind of reinforce these things is to role play as much as you possibly can, right? When there is an issue, talk it through, be positive. This is what we need you to do. Now let's do it together, right? One be the customer, one be the agent, flip it. Have them see kind of the perspective of how their tone kind of affects that conversation. I think role playing is the number one way that you can practice. It's like a scrimmage, right? It's the closest thing you can get to actually playing in the game, right? Is role playing the actual call, role playing the behaviors that you want. From an HR standpoint, making sure that we are understanding the expectations. If we just have somebody who is refusing to do, we've all been there. So no subjectivity when it comes to HR policy, when it comes to any of this stuff. You want to make sure that everything is scoped out. that Janie, Jimmy, Susie, Bobby, whoever they are, understands that this is kind of what's going to happen, right? And you're not being subjected to say, I don't like Janie, so I'm going to hit her with a 4-day suspension, and I like Bobby, so he only has to go home for the day, right? Those will cause you problems with supervisors on the floor, and I think that that's a huge, huge deal. Also, the last piece of this that everybody, and we forget it all the time, is to make sure that you remonitor, right? Remonitor that agent, focus on those specific things. When they do it right, celebrate the heck out of that, right? If they do it wrong again, then maybe we got to tweak a little bit. But I think that that's a really, really important piece of this too, is always trying to reinforce the positive and try to do as little as you possibly can about the negative. And then if there is negative, it's done privately. It's done, on a one-on-one scene. But anything that is excitable, anything that everybody does well, we want to make sure that we're shouting out. All right, that's kind of, I think that's helpful. I've wanted to do this episode for a while. I haven't done it in, a really long time, almost probably a year and a half. We haven't really talked about hardcore coaching. The other, I guess, last thing too here before I go is, one of the tools that have really come into play with this is, well, really two tools, is from an analytics standpoint, right? Is analytics can now really get to tone, right? In word usage, right? So that can really help your coaching and your QA on who to focus on, right? We post our sentiment scores, right? Especially if we're having a team that maybe we find that their stats are down or their handle time's going a little longer, or there's just something not right. When we pull sentiment scores, a lot of time we see negative sentiment there, right? So once we show that agent, the agents have to like, oh crap, you're right. And that's a really big reason of where we can see turnaround. So we try to do that constantly of showing, and for our hardcore customer service things, we're posting sentiment scores all the time. So our agents know that word usage and their tone is affected. They're going to get paid more, right? If they're doing a really good job with their tone. The other thing too, I think that is starting to really take an impact in a lot of call centers, and it's almost like real-time coaching, right? Which is agent assist, right? Agent assist is allowing kind of AI and the process of transcription and the process of looking at all the keywords that are being said and then prompting the agent to do specific things based on business rules that you have, right? So it's almost like having that real-time supervisor there talking in your ear of hey, ask this probing question. Okay, they said this. Well, here's the data that you need to tell them about this. Or hey, make sure that we're going to try to go look to sell off of that thing that they just said right there. So there's a lot of really cool new tools that are out and that are coming out on all the different platforms as well from this kind of AI revolution that we're seeing. And I think agent assist is going to be one of the really big ways that customer experience, the agent experience, is going to be changing a lot. So again, I think that can hopefully maybe give you some help or give you some things to kind of take a peek at as well. So again, if there are no other questions, thank you guys very much. Please follow me on TikTok, follow me on LinkedIn. This episode will be probably live later today. So if you found any value in it, please pass it around. But thank you guys very much. And I will talk to everybody next week.